What up, Internet? I say that a lot, actually. My name is Joe Ryder. I also go by a label, a project name, Repeater Signal. Repeater Signal is a project of mine to release the music that I've been really writing and playing for decades, 30 years. I've been a musician kind of in my own space. I've done a little bit of live stuff. I've recorded stuff, but I've never released it. I released some stuff like a long time ago, in the early parts of the internet that were not social media. It was the websites of the time. I released some very, very early stuff that was mainly just sequenced, and I think it might have been the third version of Reason. I tried that. I tried Fruity Loops. I tried Cool Edit Pro. For those of you who are old enough to remember what that is, that was originally what Audition, which Adobe bought, was actually named. It was Cool Edit. I did a lot in music. I've been around music my entire life. I was actually the nephew of a recording studio owner in Northern Oregon. I grew up around studios. I learned all of the equipment. I did sound for bands when I was in high school. I had musician friends. I still have musician friends that have done some amazing things. I'm not going to call them out, but I appreciate their camaraderie and their inspiration, because they were the reasons why I'm doing this at age 45, just before I turned 46. I wanted to come on here and tell you about the first release that I have coming up tomorrow at 10 p.m., which is a demo of the song Back to the Sale. And this song is, yes, it's a little political, and it really comes out of my frustration with everything that's going on in politics today. But I think I started realizing that it really spoke to more than just politics. It spoke to just not being happy in a relationship. But I also want to talk about just, some things that I just have to get off my chest. This eve of the first debut music, anything that I've done in my entire life at age 45. It's copyrighted. It's under my own label. It's me. And I'm extremely excited about it. I sound a little emotional, but I've been talking all freaking day. First, I want to talk about kind of the process that I took to write the song. It was a way to kind of test my chops. I use Reason, and I'm not sponsored by them, but they're my favorite digital audio workstation package. Yes, their subscription. There's a lot of rhetoric around whether that is the fall of music production is to pay subscription fees. I don't feel that way. I can kind of come and go with the DAW as I need to. And if I'm not making music, I can just stop the subscription, stop using it, come back to it, pay for it again. It just, it's easy for me. I've been using Reason for the last 2 years, the version, 11 through 13. The 2 to 3 years. Just trying to get back into it because I finally got hardware that would run it well, and I got, the Focusrite for i4 Scarlett, and I got, my little Pile mixer, so I had something to kind of help with all these live sounds that I want to put into everything and get it into the computer and actually do something with it. I'm a digital designer. I'm a multimedia artist in general. I went to the Art Institute of Portland for about 4 years before I actually switched my major over to business, and I ended up graduating from a business school. But when I was there, I was around artists all the time. There was a time in my life, being in college, that I was single father when I first started it, and then I became a husband and a father of 2, and then I became a father of 4 eventually. I was a working stiff. I got a business degree because I didn't think that creative work was going to pay going forward. Digital art and just the delusion, and that's not delusional, but the dilution. It's the same friggin' words, just spelled differently. But having diluted the artistic market like we had from the 90s on, I just saw no career path in that space. Not the one that would actually get us out of the poverty that we were in when we started. I was very, very poor, coming out of a middle class family and having none of the real financial safety net underneath me. I financed all of my college. I still pay for it today. I guess I'm giving you like the world tour of my entire life, but all that to say, like I've been around this stuff forever, and I've really wanted it to work. I never really wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a multimedia artist, and that comes with knowing how to do audio production. So I learned everything I could in terms of audio production. I learned everything from Reason, like I mentioned, Audition, Pro Tools, whatever I could get my hands on. So I cut my chops on different types of software. I remember the first waveform editor that I ever used was a tiny little Windows 98 software called Stomper. It was what made me understand waveform editing and why sounds sound the way that they do, which then helped me understand mastering and EQ and all the other things that go into making something sound actually professional. I'm not perfect. I'm not amazing, but I'm good enough to do this DIY project that I'm going to release tomorrow. And I have so many things in the hopper. I'm ready to start just churning out music. And I'm also very scared of that. I think one of the weirdest things that I tell people that is the truth is that I never play in front of people. I get really kind of very nervous. I have the biggest stage fright, especially if I wrote it, because it's not just repurposing someone else's master work. It's me trying to make a master work, and I'm embarrassed and I'm vulnerable and I'm all the things that a 6'3", almost 400-pound dude shouldn't really be. Just this lily white wobbling scaredy pants. But it's a labor of love. It's a labor of, something that I've wanted to do forever. And I never thought that I could. I never thought I was going to be a musician. I thought I was going to be like an amateur musician and just kind of play here and there, maybe on the beach sometime, and somebody hears me and they're like, "You're pretty good." Okay, I appreciate that. It's good enough. I had something happen the last couple of years. My mom died. My mom died in 2023, the beginning of 2023. I was living in Texas at the time. She was living up here in Vancouver, Washington. I took the flight up. I made sure that I made the time with my team that I worked with. And I was just in time to take about like 2 days with her before she passed away in the hospital with all of her systems shutting down and only me in the room. And I reflected on that a lot. I don't know why I'm all over the place, but I am. I've just got so many things, going. I've got like Fizzgig the Fluffy is a couple of my avatars. I've got this. I've got the Moderate Punk, and I've got the Internet Ate My Baby, and all these other things. But on the Fizzgig the Fluffy profiles, I posted, especially on TikTok, several things about my mom's passing. What I didn't post was all the things that I was upset at myself about in terms of things that she could have experienced and I could have shown her as her son. She wasn't the perfect parent, but she raised me. By the end of our relationship, we had reconciled a whole lot. And I was really excited. Actually, at the time that she passed, we were ready to come up and start living back up in the Northwest. And we were hoping that she was still going to be there, and she wasn't. And for some reason, after having all this, like I've accumulated some equipment, and I've been playing on recording and really getting back into Reason and understanding it all and everything. And for some reason, that just allowed me to make it a little bit more serious. Because it was a disappointment that I had that if I ever did this stuff, if this ever did take off, if I ever published something, she would have been the loudest fan. She would have been the loudest person in the room. I still have not played this song I'm releasing tomorrow. I've already copyrighted it. I've had it written for weeks. Recorded, mastered, everything. It's ready. And I haven't played it for any of my other family. Any of them. I probably would have played it for her. She probably would have been the first one I'd play it for. Regardless of the fact that my family on my side is a lot of them are Republican. And it does kind of hit that like anti-Republican current mindset because it was an influence. She would have understood, and she would have thought it was silly and that I did a really good job. And that really, really makes me happy. It really makes this so much better. If I was to dedicate this first song to anybody, it would be to Peggy Ryder, who died in January of 2023 and didn't get to hear it. And I get to dedicate all my future songs to my kids and my wife and my, my dad maybe, I don't know. But this one, because it's the first thing I've ever done to really do something with this silly thing that I did in high school and that I kept doing when I was an adult, and it really didn't take off, and this stigma that my family has against musicians. My family saw my uncle do okay, but not what he wanted to in music, and there was a lot of comments about how I would never want to be in those shoes. I would never have wanted to follow in those footsteps. And something about that just wasn't right. Just because he wasn't like a millionaire and a star across the nation. I don't think that he failed. His music studio was a pretty interesting place. It was on a houseboat. He helped people do demos. He helped people become musicians. And I don't think that that's something to look down on. He didn't make millions of dollars, but he didn't do bad, and he did what he loved. He's still alive. I talk like he's like dead. He's not. He's still alive. His music studio is actually still around. It's just not a business anymore. He can't run it as a business. He just does what he loves. I don't see why that's a problem. And I'm not a musician by trade, even after this. I'll be a musician on the side, and that'll be fun. And maybe I'll make something that people think about. The whole point of the Repeater Signal as a project is to really open the storybook. There's too much artificial, unintelligent, unnecessary music in the music industry because the labels want something that sells before they want anything that says anything. And what you end up with is an explanation of what that song's supposed to be, when in fact, it was probably a throwaway song. It was probably just something to get them off that artist's back. There's so many of those stories in the industry. I didn't want to get signed, and I won't get signed, because I don't want to be beholden to anyone. I don't care about the money. If it makes me money, great. And then I'll just pour it back into the music, the other stuff I'm doing, and eventually other people, other artists, homeless people, everything else that I really want to do. I make things like this for myself. I made this when there was a famine going on in Afghanistan, and honestly, it hasn't really stopped. But I made it in response to that and tried to sell it, and no one wanted it, and that's fine. I still made one for myself because I really wanted to keep that message alive, that food security is important. And that's the kind of stuff that I can do through music, but not so in your face. I love how you can be as subtle as possible, but also be as raw as possible in music. And I'm going to explore that. And I love that. I love the fact that I can do this. And for those that are thinking about it, I'm going to give you two pieces of advice that kind of contradict each other. It's the same advice that like I got, but I also then gave myself. And I'm only giving it to you because I feel like I'm like the internet's dad at this point, like the young Gen X dad that needs to try to school people into like not giving in to what the internet feeds you. The first piece of advice is you don't have to be perfect. And in fact, the best music was captured on a whim. The best music was something that just happened and happened to be being recorded. And no one expected it. It wasn't planned. It wasn't this deep scientific formula. It was the universe happening through a person. If you don't believe that you're good enough to record yourself doing something, just start believing that recording is not final. I've recorded so much over my life. Hours of video, of audio, of music. I've written so much that no one is going to ever see. That was all for me. And sometimes you got to record for you, not for everybody else. The internet is not going to just shower you with gifts and love just because you're a perfect person. It's going to shower you with all that shit because somebody's behind it, pushing it in people's faces. It's artificial. So perfection is not what the music industry wants. In fact, I mean, let's go back to the Middle Ages. That wasn't what people wanted from musicians, these perfect bastions of music. Sometimes they were radical. Sometimes they were called heathens. They were storytellers. And everybody can tell a story. People with mental illness can tell a story. Sometimes they're actually really interesting stories. So that's my first piece of advice. Don't believe that perfection is preventing you from actually doing recording. My second piece of advice, which is contradictory to the first piece, is that you have to be a little good. I don't believe that there's a market for really bad music. I don't believe that you can just will something into being pleasing to the ear. There's things you have to learn in order to be capable of entertaining an audience. And if you can't entertain them, and really entertain them in the way that you're trying to convey your message, it falls on deaf ears. They're too distracted, especially in today's market. There's too many people. There's too much available. The development of the internet to distribute music was the beginning of the collapse of the music industry. At least the music industry that built itself up to make millions of dollars and make people into celebrities. Celebrity status is actually built around audience decision making, not around audience brainwashing. I'm not going to be able to convince people that I'm any good if I'm not. And that's okay for me, but if your goal is to be popular or to have lots of listeners or say something that's super dramatic and that actually makes people believe something, and you have no listeners because you're really actually not that good at music, I also recommend you not waste time on one art form when you don't know how to make it good. Sometimes it's okay to be the guy in the recording studio, in the booth, flipping knobs. Sometimes it's okay to write and give it to somebody who has singing ability. God, I wish I could do that. In fact, I probably will. I'm going to find a female singer. If you know a female singer that wants to sing genre fusion, music, I'd love to work with you. But sometimes you're not a musician. Sometimes you're a painter or a cartoonist, or you're really good at theater, or you're good at painting barns. I don't know. You're good at something else. You could be really good at putting something into a 3D printer and coming out with something that actually, people want to buy. There's lots of ways to be creative. You don't have to do music, even though you really want to. And I think a lot of the want is just being a super fan. Just wanting to be part of it because you see someone else being part of it. And you kind of idealize their experience, and that's what you want. And sometimes that's not what you're going to get. And you shouldn't put yourself through it just because you want it so bad. Because that's where people really, they get into traps that they may not come out of. And that sounds really kind of dark and ominous, but I've seen people almost kill themselves over something not working out in their art. I've known people that have been really close to that, not being able to figure it out. I've been depressed, trying to figure out what I was going to do as an artist, and then finding out that I literally let it lapse for 3 years and didn't do anything with it, and was like, what am I doing? I'm just walking through life. So yeah, that's my recommendation. The 2 pieces of advice I have for you. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be foundationally good. You have to have at least the chops. And if you don't have them yet, just keep practicing. This is a bit of math. Like music is math, but it's poetic math. It's the most poetic math, in my opinion, because it can sound like so many things, and it can convey so much. It's a form of communication math, but at the end of the day, it's just math. I talk to so many producers now in the Portland area, and I'm really loving the fact that we have so many just amazing people, both technically and just perspective-wise, that are willing to have camaraderie around those traps that we get in, and realize that we don't have to be perfect. We have to be okay. We have to be a little commercial if we really want to do this, as a profession or as a something that's serious. And some of us just want to play around, and if it makes a little bit of money on the side, that's great. We have a day job that's going to keep us in check, and we just have fun, and we just love music. And I love that people are doing that. And these are, a lot of these people have never picked up an instrument, or they have, and that's not what they do for music. I don't even, like, you can hear it a little bit on some of the songs, but a lot of the songs, they take off a splice, or they have another musician come in and do it. And they just put it together. That's what a producer is. And there's so many good producers now. And not all of them are going to have listeners. It just is what it is. So we just kind of sit around and we say, hey, that was really good. I really liked this part of your song. Hey, this 13-minute song, man, how did you do that? Like, I could never get through a 13-minute song. How do you even sit there and do the same thing over and over again for 13 minutes? We just have fun. We chat and we bullshit, and we encourage each other, and we hold each other accountable when we're being shitty to ourselves, And I hope that you have that in your life as well. But and if you don't, reach out to me, and I'll commiserate as much as you want. But yeah, this is what I've been wanting for decades, just to see if I could do it. And I'm going to do it tomorrow. And it's going to be off the fucking hook, man. I'm so fucking excited. Now going to play the song in this video, which you're probably hearing. If I chose to put something in the background, is a repeatable punk song that I made as background music. But it's going to be great. It's going to be called Back to the Sale, the Cruise demo, because it sounds like I would say it's kind of Weezer-esque, but it sounds like an old garage rock band, and I did that all myself. That's all me, other than some sequence drums, but everything else is just me, and I thought it turned out so good, and I'm hoping you love it. Give me some comments here on YouTube. Or find me on the other socials, TikTok. I'll be on Blue Sky at some point. I'm still trying to understand what musicians do for short form content, because I just want to talk. I just want to bullshit about music, and maybe I do that every once in a while. We just talk about music and what I like about different artists and stuff like that. I really like music history, and I like talking about musicians, and especially new musicians. I just love the youth and even people like me who have just come into being a musician all of a sudden in their older age, and are really using that perspective in their storytelling. And there's just so much good stuff out there that we can't consume it all. But I run across it. I really want to share it. So maybe I'll do that too. But anyway, guys, a new single coming out tomorrow. November 5th, 2025 at 10 p.m. by Repeater Signal. That's me, Joe Ryder. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the flip side.